All right, welcome into the Third and Wrong YouTube channel. Today is going to be just me today, your host Dylan, and we are going to have a great video. This video is something that I just prepared today, and it's something that you don't typically hear about at this point in the draft. You hear about all the, you know, fun, exciting quarterbacks that are going to be drafted in the top 5 picks of the draft and everything. This video is going to be all the backup quarterbacks. And this is, in my opinion, the year of the backups. So we'll get into that video. But before we do, please bless us with a like, comment, and subscribe. Definitely helps us out a bunch. We're a small YouTube channel right now looking to grow. And the more that you help us out, the more that we grow. And bigger, better things happen that way. So I'll do that real quick and we'll get into this video. All right, welcome back. Like I said, we are going to be talking about backup quarterbacks, at least as what we're going to put in quotes, backup quarterbacks. I think these are the next level of quarterbacks after the top echelon of what we would say is the franchise prospects. And we can get into the list of that here in a second. But these quarterbacks are going to be viewed as backup quarterbacks because of either their age, their production, or some of the limitations that they might have. And so these aren't quarterbacks that I'm going to say are bad quarterbacks. They're just not going to be the prospects that everyone is looking for at the top of the draft. And it could be for a number of different reasons. We're going to talk about that. That's why this video is here. So let's move on over to backups. This year is the year of the backups. The reason why I say that is there are a lot of really good, talented quarterbacks here that are not, most likely not going to go in the first round. I think there's a few that might get some buzz that way, but these are going to be the 2nd to the 5th rounders, and some might even go later. But these are quarterbacks that I think play well. I think they have enough arm ability to survive in the NFL. But they're not going to be the guys that are going to be like the Bryce Youngs, who has special scrambling and special playmaking abilities. CJ Stroud, who has special arm talent, special accuracy and everything. Will Levis, who's got great size, run ability, and accuracy within the pro style offense. And then you have other players like Tanner McKee, who's 6'6", got some ability, but is, that prototype type quarterback. And then also I think there's another person that I might be forgetting. Oh yeah, Anthony Richardson, probably the most athletic, highest ceiling type player as far as what the general consensus will tell you. Anthony Richardson, AR-15. Those are the kind of players that are, gearing up to be drafted in the first round. These guys, I think, can play just as well in certain situations and almost even better. And I'm going to try and give you either my comps or potentially my favorite landing spots for these quarterbacks. So we're going to kick this off with Jake Haener. Jake Haener is out of Fresno State. Not the ideal size, but he plays great and has made a lot of buzz here in, I believe, the Senior Bowl, if not the Shrine Bowl. Played hell of a game, had a good week of practice, and has been a guy for Fresno State for a while. Like I said, here you're going to see the, I'm going to kind of bring it over here. So his completion percentage this last year is this first number. This is his career, and that's going to be how the rest of these stats are. So he threw for nearly 3,000 yards this year, 20 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, which is good numbers. Obviously, he's thrown in the Mountain West, so not necessarily the hardest competition in the world. But, he's producing well enough that I think in the NFL, given the right situation, he can produce pretty well. The next cat here did surprise a lot of people with where they ended up in the college football playoffs. And I believe, they beat Michigan, and then they got into the championship game, which was not much of a game. But Max Duggan is the youngest one here, and that's maybe another point I'll probably bring up. A lot of these guys are older. They're succeeding because they are older. I think the average age of this group right here is, I think, either 23 or 24, with Stetson Bennett being the oldest, and that's the next guy up. But Max Duggan is the youngest here. I believe he's just 21 and a half. He might be 22 by the time he enters into the draft, which makes him the youngest here, which is kind of surprising, but that's how COVID has kind of impacted this draft. So Max Duggan, I think has great playmaking ability. I think he has a good arm. I don't think he necessarily has the bona fide NFL arm that you would expect, but I think a lot of these players are going to kind of be what we see Gardner Minshew do, where he has some good games, not necessarily the kind of guy that you want to build your franchise around. But I think Max Duggan, being 6'2", having great stats, like I said, in a great Big 12 run and a college football playoff run, I think he bodes well to be a pretty decent quarterback for the NFL. And I think he'll be a hot commodity in the 3 to 5 rounds. I don't think necessarily the second round, but I think 3 to 5 is where Max Duggan and a lot of these quarterbacks are going to be looked at. Moving on, we got Stetson Bennett the fourth. Obviously, like I said, the oldest quarterback here. Made history. I think we got to owe it to Stetson Bennett. Did a great job this year and last year, leading the Georgia Bulldogs to back-to-back championships. It's a hard feat to do, no matter your age, no matter your abilities. It's just a hard thing to do. So you got to give props to Stetson Bennett for that. But it is something to be wary about, where he is already 25. A lot of your franchise quarterbacks that you're trying to get this year aren't going to turn 25 until their second contract or their extension or however. And so Stetson Bennett does pose, a little bit more of a backup role for the NFL. Not necessarily a bad quarterback, but nothing too special. Makes a lot of, long range throws, but a lot of them are open. So not necessarily the most special talent, but I think he gets some buzz as, being a backup quarterback. Next is Aiden O'Connell, probably one of the goofiest looking dudes in this list. I believe he's 23 years old as well. He's broken a lot of records for Purdue, if I'm not mistaken. But he's a lot more of the gunslinger type without necessarily the biggest arm. He's a little bit more risky, and that's kind of what Purdue needed him to do, to just be involved in games. So it's not necessarily a knock on him. He definitely throws a lot. He definitely has a little bit better size. And I think this is one of those occasions, almost with every single quarterback in the whole world, the right situation, he can be a really good backup. But this is someone that you might hear some people say, oh, maybe he should be looked at in the first round. I just don't think it's necessarily there. He just isn't putting everything all together. And, I think given him some time, I think he's smart enough that he can learn that role, essentially, of being a backup. So moving on, however, I think is probably the three most exciting quarterbacks. I kind of saved these for last. With Hendon Hooker potentially being the most exciting and potentially being a first-round draft pick. The reason why I say that is his ability this year to lead Tennessee. His QBR is very high. He's got the right size for the NFL. As you can see, he threw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions before his year ended, which is awesome. He was basically the Heisman favorite. The Triple H would have been crowned on him, being Hendon Hooker the Heisman. And that's not that's not a one-time, one-year thing. That was something that you can see. He's had 80 touchdowns and 12 interceptions over his career from Virginia Tech to Tennessee, which is spectacular. Obviously, he did have an injury, so that's going to pose some warranted hesitation with Hendon Hooker, but you get a special cat when you get him, when he's healthy and everything like that. He's just a little bit older, like I said. He's, I believe, 24. If not, he's going to turn 24 pretty soon. I really like him. I wanted him before he got injured. I think this is just one of those cases where it's like, okay, if it was just one thing, you can look past it. But his age and his injury, it's like, okay, Kind of hard to take him with full confidence in the first round. I'm sure someone might do it, and if they do that, props to him. But I think he's going to be a gem in the second to third round. And depending where he goes, just like with every single quarterback and player, he might be a really special quarterback in the NFL. Up next is someone that I don't think gets talked about a lot, though he is a great running quarterback. His ability to become a passer has definitely grown over his long career with UCLA. He hasn't necessarily reeled in the hype that everyone had for DTR when he went into UCLA with Chip Kelly, but he's been the guy the whole time. He hasn't lost his starting job, and that's something to say for him. But he also has grown, in my opinion. Watching him, it seems like he's a better leader. His team has definitely rallied behind him a little bit more, and the Bruins were definitely a top riser team this year. They didn't necessarily finish the job, but I think you could see Dorian Thompson Robinson improved this year, and he has a lot of exciting traits. He's a taller dude. He's got run ability, and I believe he has a good enough arm to be in the NFL. Not necessarily the most spectacular, but I think he's someone that works out really good as a potential prospect, not necessarily a first round prospect, but a Jalen Hurts type prospect where you're not so sure that he's going to succeed right away, but given the right situation, he can. The other one is someone that I've watched quite a lot. I am a BYU fan. Jaren Hall is someone that I will probably talk the most about, mainly because that's who I've seen the most. But what you get with Jaren Hall is someone I think would be the prime backup choice for Russell Wilson, mainly because his size is relatively similar. I think he's a little bit bigger than Russell Wilson, but they have the same kind of run style where they don't run when they don't need to. They can extend the pocket, and if they do need to run, they can, scoot around well enough to get a first down, even extend the play further than that. The thing that holds back Jaren Hall is kind of the same thing with Hendon Hooker, their age and their injury. If it was just one of those things, they would go a lot higher, but having both of those things definitely holds them back. The thing that I think kind of compares Jaren Hall the most to Russell Wilson is his ability to throw to the sidelines, throw the deep ball, and his lack of prowess across the middle of the field. And so if I'm Denver, I can't get, Taysom Hill to come over from New Orleans Saints for Sean Payton's sake. I think Jaren Hall is a very good candidate to land with the Broncos. Dorian Thompson Robinson, I wouldn't be surprised if he lands with a team that has an established, I'll go back to him. If he lands with a team that has an already established quarterback that needs someone to work with red zone magic kind of deal, scheme up some plays for him, a la Malik Willis, Jalen Hurts, Jacoby Brissett, that kind of deal. Just someone that can offer a different look to the offenses. I think that's someone that could do that. The Patriots is a very interesting case. The Steelers is a very interesting case. Obviously, the Ravens with Lamar Jackson, you have a little bit of a higher end Tyler Huntley, potentially. Not saying he's already there yet. Hendon Hooker is someone that I think is going to vouch for a starting job eventually in his career. I think he has that skill, and I think he has that ability, but no one is going to want to put all of that without being very certain that his injuries and his age aren't going to be a huge factor. Aiden O'Connell and the rest, I think, are going to be your typical backups that have a little bit higher abilities right now than some of the backups that are in the league. And I think they can pull off a Brock Purdy given, like I said, the right situation. Brock Purdy is not special. He's good enough quarterback to run a system that is designed well enough. And I think a lot of these quarterbacks have that same capacity with them. So one last time I'll look through them for your sake. But if you made it to the end of this video, I definitely appreciate that. It's a little bit of a newer concept doing these kinds of videos. If you like that, drop a like, drop a comment. Let me know what you think about it. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We got more content coming out for you.